What is up, everybody? This is Recap Rewind. I'm J-Lag.
And I'm NB.
And this episode is recapping and reviewing Riverdale Season 6, Episode 5. And it's called Chapter 100, The Jughead Paradox.
Don't forget, guys, stick around for the end of the podcast. We're going to go through our recap roundups, our best moments, best lines, MVPs, LVPs, some of your roundups. So be sure to stick around for the end of the podcast for that.
And as always, to our continued listeners and our brand new ones, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let us get up into the episode, y'all.
100.
100.
What'd you think?
I thought it was fantastic. I mean, I always wonder what people are going to do for 100th episode because I think it's so monumental. I think they killed it. I think they did such a fantastic job with it. Tied up a lot of the storyline. I mean, pretty much everything is like back to normal or whatever. And I'm kind of good with it. And I love the way that they wrapped it all together. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was probably their strongest, probably second strongest episode ever, ever in the entire series. Things were just tied up really beautifully. They made fun of themselves the entire episode, which is always fun to watch.
I love that.
Fun at, all these throwbacks to the Gargoyle King, and I just loved it. Writing was amazing. Everything was perfect. I can't even complain. There was enough surprises along the way that I was like, oh my God, I'm really enjoying watching this episode. And it was one of those episodes where I felt like there was so much in it. Where I'm at the 20-minute mark and I'm like, is this episode almost done? And I look and I'm like, oh my God, we're not even halfway through yet. There was so much going on, which is exciting and it's fun to watch. So
for sure.
I was definitely excited to do the podcast and just seeing everyone's tweets. Everyone loved it.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things that I don't know if I fully grasp. So I'm excited to ask you and talk about it.
For sure.
I don't know if I get it, but I'm okay that I almost don't
that you don't get it. Yeah, I know. I mean,
because parallel universes always they intrigue me and I love them and I could talk about them for hours, but I just don't get it.
You're like, the science behind it makes no sense. Yeah, for sure. And it's funny because this reminds me a lot of the Chaos episode. Do you remember the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina episode where they do kind of the back
the show,
studio
the TV show,
TV show concept, and it was almost that level of perfection to me because I think that episode was amazing.
Ooh, that was amazing too. Yeah, you're right.
But I love that they have. I mean, obviously there's writers who are probably connected to both shows, so there are obviously a few through lines that I'd love to talk to you about, similarities with both of the shows. Anyways,
sure.
Let's talk about Riverdale. Let's get into it. It starts off with another narration, and it's Jughead saying the following isn't an imaginary story. So already we're supposed to be okay, this is the realness of the real. It starts off with a corpse, face down, and it shows a dead body, and we're like, who is it? Don't really know. And then it shows all of the characters kind of waking up from dreams or nightmares. Archie wakes up and he's alive magically. And Betty wakes up from a nightmare saying that people were sacrificing him. Tony wakes up and Fangs is like, I had a dream that you were drowning and then you came back as a ghost. And then Veronica wakes up and says Reggie had she had a dream. And then he's like, oh yeah, when I got sent to hell. Cheryl has a dream and Nana's still alive. And she's like, we had some body swapping experience.
So it's a reset almost. Everyone that has died this season came back.
Came back, exactly. And then Jughead wakes up and then he checks under a bed and then he goes downstairs. So he's in Archie's house. And then as soon as he goes downstairs, he there's an explosion and then he wakes up and he's in Archie's
he hears the ticking
garage.
Sound, right?
He hears a faint ticking sound, but when he checks under the bed, there's nothing there. So it's almost he's in this weird, he doesn't even know why he's down up there, checking for a bomb.
Yeah.
It's because it all is very confusing to him too at this point in time.
There's something really beautiful about this episode and just this whole idea of these parallel universes in general, where they say people who believe in these things say that when you daydream, it's actually you have experienced it in another universe, a
deja vu moment.
A deja vu where you have done that, but you just you're not recalling all of those little elements of your memory.
Yeah.
So I love that. That's very intriguing when you think about it. And I did a disservice to myself last night when I watched it. The first like 20, I was like wrapping gifts. So I missed a lot of these moments because a lot of these moments happen like, you know, I'm watching it, but then I'm like turning away. I'm watching and turning away. But there's these little beautiful moments that like there's no dialogue, but there's so much being said on screen. So when I rewatched it this morning, I'm like, oh my God, I totally missed like all of these moments where he's looking and I'm like, okay, good thing I rewatched it.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those episodes for sure you have to pay attention.
Yeah.
And they create a lot of these little tiny cute Easter eggs that if you weren't paying attention, like you wouldn't catch them. But like I love that for the 100th episode too. Like they brought a lot of people back. Like it was great.
And
it was so good.
Another reason why it was good though was because I didn't see any of the guest starring credits.
Oh,
I didn't see a single person. I knew Ethel was coming back because I saw like the tweets and stuff, but I didn't see the Ross Butler one. So when he came, I was legit gagged. I was like, what?
Gagged.
Like,
yeah.
And I honestly, like, I have to say, like, it's pretty clutch, like, not seeing who's going to be a guest star.
Yeah.
Then, like, you get surprised more.
A part of me almost wishes they didn't show them.
Yeah.
To be honest. But
or just
anyway.
do it at the end. Anyways, whatever. Sorry.
Yeah.
Tangent.
So anyway, so he gets home to Tabitha, like in his apartment, and he thinks that he sleepwalked all the way to Archie's garage. And Tabitha says like, oh, it must be because you're nervous because it's your first day back at school teaching. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. So like he's not even really remembering where he's been at in this like time and space.
And he's like, why would I be excited? Like what's today that I'm
he's like also like
lit?
I hate being a teacher. Like, why would I be excited?
He's like, I hate having a job. Why am I excited?
I can be helpful to society. Pass. So anyway, he cuts to Riverdale High, but now it's like a weird slow motion walk in where he sees people, but they don't really notice him. And then it looks like he's in like high school times. So like, it's almost like people are like reset all the way back to like his high school life because he sees Archie talking to Miss Grunz in the music hall.
And he like winks at him.
It's all back to that first episode.
And Kevin
almost.
Walking with the two girls. Like
Kevin walking with
it
the
was
two
very
girls.
much season 1 Riverdale.
Like episode 1. Yeah, exactly. So there was that was happening. And then he actually ends up seeing himself with the Jughead crown beanie.
I feel like they were even wearing the same thing. Like I could be wrong, but I feel like I feel like they were all wearing the same thing. It must have been like a
shout out to that very first episode.
Yeah.
So he sees himself. He's like drinking water, like a water fountain, and then he walks away. But then he goes to the bathroom, and then he washes his face. He's trying to like clear his head, and he sees Ben. Ben, who got hot, by the way, number one.
He was I was like, who is this kid?
He got like D's. And then he's like, Ben, like, what are you doing here? Like, you died. And then he talks about the fact that he's like, oh, well, like, that didn't really happen to me. That happened to somebody else. He was like, you jumped out a window.
He's like, no, that wasn't me. That was that guy. And then Jughead's like, oh, yeah, that was that guy too. But I thought you did that too.
You did it first. So, like, what happened in that situation? So, anyway, he ends up telling him, he's like, you know, these are like signs of schizophrenia. So, like, just like keep an eye on that. Like, I don't know what's happening with you. Check yourself. And then next thing you know, he's in the lounge and they're planning Archie and Betty's wedding. So like that's happening in this world. And Betty gets a call from Dr. Curdle Jr. and he says that Jughead's body has been found and it's in the morgue right now. And Betty's like, he's sitting right there. What are you talking about? This ain't true.
She was so mean to him though. Like I'm like, after all the times he's helped you, like obviously it's not really Betty, but like she's like, stop calling me, you weirdo. She's like, I don't need your energy, like ruining my day. I was like, oh my God.
Energy here. Yeah, she's like stop it. You're such a weirdo. He's like, okay, geez. I'm just trying to tell you that your ex-boyfriend's dead.
Like, he's right in front of me. Like, can't have it.
So she tells this to Jughead, and Jughead's obviously very confused, but he's also very intrigued. So he goes to visit his own body at the morgue. He goes to see Dr. Curdle Jr., and as soon as he sees the body, because Dr. Curdle Jr. is like tripping out, he's like, yo, what is happening up in this gig? He sees the body, and things start to like crack around him. Like the lights start flickering.
I love
like,
that sound effect. It was so cool.
Like all the things are cracking, and then Dr. Curdle Jr. is like, it's a paradox. Like he like already knows like what the situation is. And then Jughead asks like how his like whatever doppelganger died. And he's like, he died of asphyxiation. He was like strangled to death by the lonely highway. And then Jughead goes to check out like that area. And he just like sees the sign, and then he like goes around the sign, and the sign is like backwards. Like the Riverdale sign is backwards. I didn't know what that meant, but anyway, he was
Yeah.
like, "This is weird." Then he gets back.
Okay, quick
Yeah,
question though for you. What does that mean? Like, why was he dead? Like, who killed him?
well, you find out later who kills him.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
True,
We
true,
find out who
true.
kills him after. Um, so you're
But
like,
his no,
ding,
no,
ding,
but the
ding.
body that he's dead, is that the body from Rivervale or was that from Riverdale?
Well, that's the confusing part, right? I think that's the idea of the convergence between like Jughead being in both worlds and understanding
Yeah.
and like waking up on both sides. Like he's in Rivervale as the Jughead from, I think, Riverdale almost. Like I think that his character out of all the characters pulled a Sabrina and like had a double.
That's what I thought. But then he
Yeah.
just says that he was sort of awoken to it. So
Yeah.
like he's still his person in Rivervale. He just like got like woke.
Got woke. I don't know. It's
It was
very
that part
confusing.
was
You
a
don't really
little
know like where his head's at with a lot of this episode. Like he's trying to figure it out too. But I'm
so
pretty
like
sure he's like the Riverdale in Rivervale. He's the
that's what
Riverdale
I thought,
Jughead in
but
Riverdale.
they didn't say it like that. If that's how it was
No.
supposed to be. And that's
Yeah.
what I thought. Remember last week we were talking about that. I was like, maybe his body like crossed over somehow or like swapped
Yeah.
the two universes.
Swapped bodies. Yeah.
That would have made more sense, I think, like a little bit, but they didn't say that that was what happened unless we just didn't understand.
They don't say it specifically, but I think that's like the inference that like the crossover
Oh.
because he was there
He
and he was the one that was
crossed
like awoken or whatever. Yeah, he's the only one that knows
Okay.
what's happening. Anyways, so he gets back home to his apartment and he pulls out all the stuff from the dead Jughead's body. Like he sees like he checks his like bag and stuff and he finds a comic book and the comic book is like Archie and Betty get married. Like it's on the front cover. And then he realizes that there's all these other comic books. There are all these Riverdale comic books that have happened or are happening or are about to happen. And then he starts to read all of them. And he gets to one where he's even like talking to Archie about the comics when he was moving in with Tabitha, which was at the beginning of the season, which I think I called out at one point. I was like, maybe it has to do with these comic books. So it's interesting that that was one of our theories at the end of it all. But anyway, so he gets to one of the comic books, the one where he was like, "Oh yeah, Jughead, don't you remember this?" And then he's flipping through it and the pages are blank. So some of them are not like fully written comic books, I guess.
I think it was right after the explosion. It was blank.
Right. Yes,
Because
you're
after
right.
that
Yeah.
moment, it all stopped. So
It
that
all
was another
stops.
one little detail that I was like, oh, I missed that in the
Yeah,
first time I
yeah,
watched
yeah.
this.
So then Tabitha gets home and then he's like, "Okay, this is
He's
why
like,
it's
honey,
happening."
sit down. I need
Yeah,
to tell you about these
you
two
need to know.
universes.
Yeah. So she's like, "Okay, whatever." And she sits down and reads them. She's like, "That's so strange." She's like, "I'm only in like 50% of these comics because like I didn't get introduced until last season." But she's like, "I do remember all these things, but they all happened in Rivervale. Like I remember those memories from here, not from
Yeah.
like another
Yeah.
place." And that's when he starts to get more confused. And so do we. So then he goes to visit Barchie and he asks if he remembers the explosion. And Betty's like, "Nope, I don't remember an explosion, but you did have a dream that you woke up in Riverdale." And he's like, "Oh yeah, true, but that was just a dream. Like, I don't know what that's about." Then he goes to visit Veronica and Veronica's like, "That's so weird because in the comics it shows like my dad like terrorizing all of Riverdale. But my dad died the night of my quinceanera in Rivervale." So like this quinceanera, by the way, was like apparently lit.
Like
'Cause,
epic. And we
which
did
I-
not have that event.
That did not happen in Riverdale, that's for sure. And he's like, it's weird because Hiram was like the evil person in Riverdale, but like who's the big bad person in
Yeah.
Rivervale? So he's trying to also figure out who's that evil person. There must be a counterpart there. And Reggie actually calls out at this moment in time because he's reading the comics and he's like, "Why do I look too different in two of these like issues? I died." I was like, "Oh my God, it's a shout out to the original Reggie."
Yeah.
I literally
Because the
thought it was
hair
gonna,
is so different. Like,
it's different. Yeah.
yeah.
I thought that was gonna be like where they
That's
ended
it.
it. So anyway, we'll get to that part.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I was dead.
But
So
sorry,
then,
did you see his name in the beginning?
no, I didn't notice it.
Oh,
no.
you didn't?
I don't
Okay.
usually pay attention to the
Okay,
names
okay.
because I'm busy making notes. I'm like,
Yeah.
So he visits Cheryl, and then she's also just like, okay, but these comics are kind of BS. Like, for one, Jason is still alive, and Jughead's already confused because he's like, what? Like, you were like, your whole life was wrapped up around the fact that like he died and all this other stuff. And then she's like, nope, he's alive. He's coming right now. And we see Jason, which we saw in the promo, obviously. So it's a bit of a spoiler, but he walks in and he says like 3 lines for the first time of all time.
He speaks in Riverdale.
In 100 episodes. He
and his voice
like,
was so
hey,
cute.
Jughead.
He's like, so like, it's a gentle voice. I was like, oh,
yeah. It was like,
that's what you sound like.
Imagine it was like completely wrong voice. We're like, oh my God, no wonder. No, it was cute. And he says hi to Jughead, and then Cheryl just kind of like moves him on, and she was like, get out of here, hobo, like you don't even know what you're talking about. And then they leave to play tennis. Then it cuts to Veronica at home with Reggie, and she's like annoyed by Jughead because like he brought up memories of her father.
Yeah, he's like trying to get it in, and she's like, "Ugh, my dad."
Like,
and
massaging, and he's like, "Okay, well, like let me like make you feel a little bit more comfortable." But then they get a knock on the door, and it's the original Reggie.
Original. So he was only Reggie for the first season, right?
For the first season.
First season, that was it. So like, Ross Butler, who is equally like as so cute and like beautiful, so handsome.
Yeah. 100%.
I loved it. I think I literally screamed. I was like,
yeah, I was gagged.
Because I didn't see his name. And I love when they do these things. I really, really hope that like in the future, they move more towards not putting it in like the promo teaser and like, because it really gags you. I was like, oh my God.
For sure.
I was like so excited.
It was a huge moment.
Such a cool thing that they did for this episode. Yeah. I absolutely loved it.
It was so good. Anyway, he goes to the library. Jughead goes to the library and he asks for like a book on paradoxes and like multiple universes. And the librarian tells him that it was checked out by Dilton Doily. And then Jughead's like, oh, but he's dead. Like, what are we going to do now? And she's like, what are you talking about? Like, he's a full out teacher. He literally teaches like right beside you down the hall. And he's like, oh, interesting. So then he goes to talk to him, and he has this like long, luscious, beautiful hair in this world.
Oh my God.
It's like, nice touch. Okay. And then he sees Ethel actually like in the back corner.
In the corner.
He's like the assistant to the teacher.
She's like blowing something up in the corner. I'm like, come to the forefront.
But I was so happy to see her too. I was
like,
shout out to Ethel coming back for this fucking episode, 100th episode. I was actually really happy to see her.
Yeah.
And he sits down with Dilton. Dilton basically says, like, I know what you're talking about, and I totally believe what you're saying, but essentially, like, there's nothing you can do. Like, it is what it is. Like, just live out your life.
Yeah.
And obviously, it was already, even at that point in time, like a very sketchy answer. Like, why are you just telling people to live their lives? People are like, there's a dead body in the coroner's office. That is me. Like, what the hell? And he's like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, go talk to the sheriff. Like, figure out investigating murder.
Like, Jughead's like, this is not just a typical case of like parallel. He's like, clearly something is warping because breaking, like things are like mixing into each other, and like this doesn't seem normal. And he's like, I was not called upon to just sit in my house and write.
I was like, not called upon.
I need to do something. I was like, good. No, Jughead like really like I liked this episode. I was like, get it. Like, go
he was like very full on this episode, like very active. So then it cuts to Veronica and the 2 Reggies, and they're all talking. And it was just like every scene with them 2 in it, I was dying. Like the way the fact that they gave this storyline to Veronica and Reggie, and the 2 Reggies, I should say, I was like, this is perfect. This is what I always wanted from Veronica. And the fact that like it just throws
so much, like it's so much fun because they did switch characters. They did switch actors. Like what show does that, right? So it's a very unique situation, and to poke fun at it like all these years later.
For sure. I love the fact that they did that. For sure. It was so good. Anyway, one's like, I was the first Reggie, and he's like, well, I was the longest Reggie. Like it was just so cute.
Yeah, because Charles Melton's like, I was in it longer. Like you were just in like 12 episodes.
And then he was like, but I was like Reggie Prime. I was like OG Reggie. Anyway, Veronica's like, okay, I can't deal with this right now. I got to figure out these bachelor and bachelorette parties. And then it was cute because Reggie, like the new Reggie, was like, I want to go, like, I want to go to the bachelor party. Like, I want to do that. And
Bachelorette.
no, but then the OG one was like, I want to go to the
Oh,
bachelorette party.
yes.
Because the other one wanted to go
Ross
to the
Butler.
bachelor party.
Yeah.
So then Ross Butler, OG Reggie, the next shot is him literally like magic miking it for like all of the girls.
Genuine ponying.
Died.
I was like, this is amazing.
I was like,
the girls are like so chugging champagne.
Like, yes, I know. Fucking Vanessa Morgan was like slurp. Like she's like,
I was like, girl, aren't you breastfeeding?
So then it cuts to Archie drinking by himself at the casino at the bachelor party.
Like
and
compared to the bachelorette, the bachelor party was always so how boring.
It goes. It's like bachelor party dead. So then Jughead goes to like say hi to him, and it was a really sweet moment. And like it's all these little things that they did this episode that really like hit me in terms of like, wow, 100 episodes. They brought every essential part to this episode to this episode, except for I will say like Penelope, like they missed a few of the adults, which I was missing. But anyway, aside from that, he has a moment with his dad, thinking about his dad, and he was thinking about how, you know, he's like, I think it's so weird. Every single time I think about my dad and getting married to Betty, like I just feel like he's gonna be there, sitting at the wedding and standing at the wedding.
He'd be so happy that it was with Betty too.
It was with Betty, exactly. And I was just like, oh, it is such a heartbreaking thing, because one of the things that we have to come to terms with is like, you can bring back all these characters who've been killed off on a show, but you can't bring someone back who's actually been dead. So like, it's just, it was hard to hear it, because a part of you is also kind of is just as hopeful as he is, like, who knows? Maybe they have some like old footage, or
and they did
come through.
They did show some old. They did show
some old footage, but like nothing that we hadn't seen before. Anyway, it was just like a very touching moment to hear Archie talk about this, and the fact that, you know, like regardless of what world he's in, universe he's in, the love that he had for his father, Archie as a character, like it's just like crosses all universes, and I thought that was really sweet. Anyway. Cuts to Veronica at home, and she's like feeling like loose and drunk, and she's like, I want to dance, like let's dance. And then it shows OG, and then like Ross Butler, OG Reggie's like, I'll dance with you. So then he starts like dancing up on her back or whatever, and then new Reggie is like, Charles Melton is like sitting there like,
he was like feeling some type of way,
fuming. And Reggie's like, I don't like sharing. And then he's like, well, I don't like sharing either. And Veronica, I feel like, had like some of the best lines this episode. One of the things that she says in this moment, and she says, the irony is Veronica Lodge is more of a woman than either of you can handle alone. And I was like, Reed, like that was good. I loved it. Yeah, she was super cute this episode. Anyway, next morning at school, everybody's hungover. It was funny because they're like, don't you remember when you were a teenager and you could just like go to class? I was like,
yeah, they're all like hungover. I'm like, why did you guys do this on a weeknight?
Yeah, exactly. And then it turns out that Cheryl gets a note from someone named the Black Hood, and Jason has been kidnapped. So like already like things are starting to get weird. We're like, what is this? Is it Hal? Anyway, Jughead tells Archie that he thinks he knows where Jason is based on the comics that he's been reading. And he's like, I think he's at the basement of the White Worm. So they go down there to save him. Sheriff Keller comes, and he like shoots the Black Hood like right in that last moment before he's about to pull his gun out. And they pull the mask off, and the Black Hood in this world is Clifford Blossom, which is like a twist. But I mean, he was also a killer, so it makes sense. Anyway, then it cuts to the two Reggies, and they're like wrestling, like when Veronica gets home, and Veronica's like, can you guys just chill out? Like, get your shit together. We need to go to this rehearsal dinner. Like, stop fighting. This is so annoying. Anyway, she ends up like, that was like the scene. Then it cuts to Pop's Diner.
You're grounded. You have to stay here.
You can't go anywhere. And then at Pop's Diner, everyone's there to cheers Barchie, and Hal is there, and he does like a little cheers. So like we get a little moment with Hal.
Alice does like her speech, and then she's like, now Hal can say like just a little speech, very short.
She's like 2 seconds. Like, I'm timing you, girl. Um, and so he starts his speech, and then sure enough, Tony walks in that same moment, cuts him off.
Like buzzkill.
Yeah, buzzkill. And she's like, Cheryl's dead. Like literally just walks
Like,
right in.
I already knew that from her face.
She was strangled to death apparently, and Jughead realizes that this is like, then he starts to like put it all together, and he's like, maybe it's Dilton. Dilton's the one that told me to not look into this so much, but there is someone killing people, so like what's going on? So he goes to see Dilton at school, and Dilton is like, he's turning into a mad scientist essentially. Mm-hmm. He's like, it's happening. And Jughead's like, what the F is happening? Ethel explains that the two universes that are created are real, but they're now currently expanding, and Dilton wants to be like the first person to document these two universes, like a prime universe and a pocket universe and all these other things. And Dilton says like, you can't stop this, like we're not going to be able to stop this. And then he starts to like gurgle and then choke, and then he dies
on that like blue thing,
the blue stuff. Yeah. Which is funny because I thought he was like dying because of what had happened to him in the other world.
That's what I thought, yeah.
But the twist is Ethel just poisoned him. So
ooh, girl, coming through with the poison.
She out here just killing people too. So she kills him. She's like, he needs to shut up. He didn't know what he was talking about. Like he was so extra. And she's like, I think I know how to stop the universes from both destroying each other.
I always loved Jughead and Ethel. There's something about this, not in a romantic way, just like in like a friendship, just like even their chemistry, like watching them on screen, there's something really sweet about the two of them working together.
Yeah, because Ethel's so sweet. I think that she's like such a sweet character,
and she's like on his level of like smartness. So like whatever he says, she always like has like another idea that
has
like,
an
better.
answer. For sure. So she says that she can like save Riverdale, but like maybe not Rivervale. So she's like, I'm able to save one of the worlds. I don't know if at this point in time we find out which one is like the real one and which one's the fake one, but like at some point in time,
he said it in the beginning. He's like, Riverdale is like the first, and then Riverdale is like it's like right after
the separate one.
They know that Riverdale is like the first one,
the original one. I think he tells Tabitha that. I think anyway. Two things. First of all, Ethel's MVP for being like a universe world jumping freaking queen, where she even in Stranger Things was like in the upside down. Like she's out here like multiple universes, multiple worlds.
Yeah. She's like, I know these things.
She's like, I know about all these things because like I died in one of the worlds, but I'm alive in this one. But like anyway, it's just funny that like her character, she's almost like typecast as this like universe jumping girl. Second thing, the one thing that I will say is it was very, and tell me if I'm wrong, but did it not feel very like Chilling Adventures energy, that finale where they talk about the two worlds were like created because Sabrina created a doppelganger, so the two universes started to converge on each other?
You know what? I have to say the Sabrina one to me made more sense, right? Because I understood why she created a second person of herself.
Physically,
that made more sense to me. Not that I didn't enjoy this one. This one was a little bit more like I didn't know where it was going. I was like, what are they going to say at the end?
Yes.
It was more like that.
I was the same
but I
way.
enjoyed both.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not making a comparison. It was just like interesting to see like, oh, they're doing two universes in this world.
Sabrina, with Sabrina, but that's the thing. Even in the Flash, remember I was saying how last week all the CW shows did like a 4-5 episode series. It's all I think to do with like a different alternate universe.
Like crossovers. Yeah. I guess this is like their version
the
of
network
that,
was like, here's parallel universes, run with it. We want all the shows to do a parallel universe.
All the producers are like, this is what we're doing.
We're
for
like,
the next
what?
2 seasons.
How are we going to make this work?
Anyway, I was also just like, where did Sabrina go? Like, could she not have been like, oh, hey, I dealt with this in Greendale. I know. This out for you. Well, she didn't really figure it out for herself. So like, anyway, she was busy. So anyway, then it cuts to Veronica. Another funny scene. Veronica gets home and she's like, Reggie's, like she's like calling for both of them at the same time, and then she turns the corner and sure enough these two poor guys like basically killed each other by fighting each other to the death. And she says something like, when I told you guys to fight it out, it didn't mean to the death. Like it was just like a funny moment to see these two people just die.
was excited to see like some sort of three-way connection happening
like
there, and I didn't get that scene.
Well, she was trying. She was. No, our girl was trying the night before.
Oh, I told yeah, like she tried, but I was like, I'm like, yes, that like, is what I would have done.
We want we want to see Veronica like get it on.
Yeah,
so
like
good.
2 Reggies. Oh my god,
like that's a scene that I would have loved to see. Anyway, cuts to Ethel telling them that they need to like conjoin, telling Jughead that they need to like there was a certain event that happened that conjoined the worlds, and he's like, it must have been the explosion that happened, and she was like, that's a very small thing to have happened, but he does say that there's all these different elements that would have made this happen. So I had to go back and write them down.
I like that line too.
It was the love between Barchie, like Archie and Betty.
They were like having sex.
They were having sex. Hiram and his hate because he puts the bomb in the like under the bed. Creation with him writing in the garage, like Jughead writing in the garage. Destruction was the explosion. There was science because there was palladium sitting on his table, like on Archie's table, and magic because Cheryl had the curse that had happened just the night before. So all that happened in the same space, and she was like, okay, like maybe that is one thing that we have to do. So
yeah, that's enough stuff.
She's like, fair enough, science, like whatever, that works. So she says we need to recreate this moment again, or that same experience, and then like they will like rip apart again. And he says like, what's gonna happen with Riverdale? And she was like, we're aberrations, like we're not supposed to exist, like this wasn't even real to begin with. It's very cool to hear it from a character, like just from a character in general, but like when the writers and creators create this complete world that we're all supposed to be like invested in, and for the last 5 episodes all of us have been like on Twitter like loving it and whatever, to hear them say like, but we're not supposed to exist, I was like, wow, this is so deep, meta, heavy, interesting.
It is. And it's also like,
things.
I was really shocked and impressed by how they dealt with it, because I was like, imagine you and I, tomorrow someone came and they're like, this is not your real universe.
This is not your real universe.
Recap, rewind is actually like rewind, recap. Like, how are you going to believe someone and be like, yeah, let's blow up our world so that we exist? Like, how are you going to trust that? Like, that's all you ever know. Like, this is your universe. So it was a huge thing for Ethel to be like, no, like this is not us. Like, we need to like get the real one back.
We need to get the real one back. Or the world will collapse. Like that's what she says. Like they're gonna collapse on each other. Yeah. So Ethel says Barchie is gonna have to blow up, and Jughead's like, that's not gonna happen. It's literally their wedding night. Like they're gonna get married tomorrow. Like I can't ask them to like blow each other up. Like that doesn't make sense. And he's like,
maybe on the
I can do it. Maybe I can do it with Veronica. Like maybe I can like make. What did you say?
Right.
So he's like, maybe I could make it happen with Veronica. So then we have this like funny
make it
happen with her. And so he goes to Veronica, and she was like, so we had to like make out to like save the universe. And he's like, yeah, basically. And she says, here's to Bughead becoming canon, which I thought was really cute. God. We have that one little moment where
ain't nobody on Twitter being like,
ain't nobody saying Bughead becoming canon. That is for
I will say they were cute together, like in the sense of like working together finally, because we never get them.
We never get them
even talking to each other.
Yeah.
So for them to like be on this mission together, and it's true, like what he's saying is like, we are the counterparts to those two like energy things. So he's like, it would make sense that it could still be me and Veronica.
So it could still work.
Like, it made sense. Yeah.
So
and she said something really cute. Are you gonna
go say that?
How she was like, can we do this like during the wedding? Because I really don't want to go to the wedding. And he was like, yeah, let's do it during the wedding. I was like, that was so
She's
cute.
like, I'm not really like in the mood. You know what I mean? And he's like, fair enough.
He's like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, true. So and then we have a really quick reflection point where Jughead's reading the yearbook. And he's like just getting like nostalgic or whatever. He's at home. He's waiting for Veronica to show up at Archie's house, and Archie like comes in, and he's like in his wedding attire, and he's upset. He's like, I knew this was about you, and like figuring out this universe thing. It all clicked with me when I was waiting at the altar for Betty, and I had to talk to you about it. And Archie has this like full out like storyline. He becomes the villain in like 5 seconds, but it's like almost amazing the way that they wrote this whole situation. I loved it.
So freaking good.
Yeah.
Like,
so the first thing that he says, because like, because Jughead's like, how do you know all this information? How did you know that I was gonna come? Because we find out at this point in time that he was the one that was killing everybody. He kills
Yeah.
Veronica.
Sorry,
He
but
killed
how did he do
Cheryl.
that?
He just like strangled them. Like he
No, but
like
like, wasn't he dead? Didn't he get like his heart ripped out in the first episode?
yeah,
So
but I
he
think
came
that like
back.
in this episode, like it was like reset. So like as soon as he came
Oh,
back,
true. I got
as
it.
soon
Okay.
as he came back from like being dead, he like went and killed everybody
He went off.
because Jughead says like, how do you know all this? And he goes, and this was like a KJ Appa moment. It wasn't an Archie moment. He's like, bro, I
Yeah.
know all the secrets of the world or secrets to the universe. I was like, bro,
I
chill.
love when he says bro, because it like it does. It kind of like takes you out of that moment. But
Very
it just shows
KJ.
you that they're really good friends too. I
Yeah.
think they have like this natural chemistry, which is awesome to see on screen. But yeah, he
Yeah.
was like, bro, I know him. I'm like, oh my God. That was
Yeah.
not in the script. He added
Not
that
in the
in there.
script. He had to add that in for sure. So he ends up making this whole conversation about the fact that like if he's like, I was at the beginning of the universe, I was the beginning of when all of this started,
Mhm.
which I guess is because he was a part of that explosion. Like I don't
So
really
why
like
wouldn't
he
have
doesn't
Betty
really
have seen it
explain.
then?
I don't know. I'm not really sure. Or maybe it's when he got sacrificed. Like we're not really sure like when he got
Yeah.
reset.
I
So
see.
anyway,
And this was one of the moments where I questioned. I was like, I don't get it. Like, it does make sense because he was the start of this big boom. Then why
right.
wouldn't Betty remember that? Do
Right.
you know that
And
was
then
my question?
and then a part of me was also like, oh, does it have to do with the fact that it's like Archie? Like because it's like Archie
Yeah, because it's like
comics,
his
like it's his
universe.
story. Yeah.
Which they could have said that. They could have easily been
Yeah.
like,
I
because
would have
you're
been
like
okay with that.
you're the hero or something. And like I would have been like, okay, cool. Like I get it.
Yeah, I would have totally ran with that.
Yeah.
So anyway, he ends up going on to say, and it was so sweet because you get this really quick moment in the beginning where he misses his dad, and he talks about all about the fact that he was killing everybody because he's like, everybody comes back to life here. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you just get reset when everything just like starts all over. And he has like such a desire to see his father again. And he's like, I refuse to get married. Like, he's like, I know he's going to be at my wedding. And like, it's this very tight shot between the two of them where he's like, clearly going delusional, but at the same time, like you feel for him because you're just like, he just wants his dad. And I was like, ugh. Like if there was a way to perfectly like tie up all of Archie's trauma around losing his father, this was like the moment for me
100%.
because the way KJ did it, the way that they just like said like he would kill everybody for like a 0.0001 chance to see his dad again. I was like heartbroken, and it was such a science fiction-y storyline. So you're like, where is he going with it? But when he brought that whole humanity to it, I was like, Archie, I'm so sad.
We've never really seen Archie deal with good and evil in the sense of like, I will do evil so I can have my dad back.
So I can do good. Yeah, for sure.
I don't think this would have ever happened in real Riverdale. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not Archie. Archie would freaking be a firefighter, doctor, a nurse, everything, just so that he could like help everyone. But to see him like battle that line was really beautiful and sad too. That he would do all of this darkness so that he could still find some light, you know, and have his dad back. And
that makes me sad.
And Jughead's face was very like the acting was really good too in the scene because like Jughead's face is in the middle of like
he's like
you're going crazy,
but like crazy.
He's hurt too because he's like this is my friend's dad. Like so they played it off really really beautifully.
Really
I really
well.
like that. Yeah,
such a good scene. And so then they fight. He like chucks him on a table. He starts to strangle him. And as soon as he's like about to die, basically, he gets shot in the back of the head. And you're like whoa.
Like shot up. Like I was like
pop off.
Like you saw the it was like explosion. Blood. I was like,
yeah, I was like, okay, I guess that's what we're doing today. And it was funny because the first thing you hear, it's Betty, and she's wearing her like wedding dress.
Beautiful.
She looks so pretty. And she says, never leave a Cooper woman standing at the altar. I was like, snaps. So good. And he ends up saying to her, like, he like explains the whole situation with like recreating the moment. And she decides to help him with it. Mm-hmm. So we finally, and I guess
I was surprised that Archie didn't kill Betty. Like I thought he had already killed Betty at that point.
Like he's like, I already did that to her.
Well,
like I killed
Veronica,
then I killed Betty,
like,
then I killed everybody. Yeah, I don't know. Like he just
like skipped over her.
Yeah, he's like, not
like, I will leave you at the altar, but I won't kill you.
But I will kill you. She's like, well, I'm gonna kill you for leaving me at the altar. So they end up recreating this kissing scene. but it's the two of them, and obviously Bughead fans across the world were
So
probably
I
like,
love this
"Oh
scene.
my
Yeah,
God."
Bughead fans finally got to like jack off
Like,
last night, like
lost
have
it,
a
lost
good
it.
times. But I love this moment because they're on the bed and Jughead's like, we need to like recreate like that night. She's like, yeah, like we have to like do everything like that. He's like, we need to recreate everything that
Every moment
happened
that
right up
happened.
to that moment. She's like, oh, like that. And he
Like,
goes
you
like,
want to do that?
and then
Oh,
she was
okay.
like, you know, we did that. Like we had sex on this bed. And he's like,
Like,
yeah, I know. I read it in the comic book. And she's
it's
like, oh. So I
like
was like,
awkward moment. Okay,
so then
sounds
they had to
good.
like fully like start, like they were like making out.
Yeah.
It was
Anyway,
cute. I'm not gonna lie. Like it was cute to see them back making out, but like I know that it's not real, so it doesn't mean anything. Like they're just doing this
to
to
like play it out or
for the universe,
recreate
to
it or
save the
whatever for the
universe.
for the universe to make up for the universe. So they start, and just before the bomb, because the bomb was already set off or whatever, like it was starting to tick tick tick, and so they're making out, and another Jughead walks in, and he's like, stop, stop, stop,
I love
there's
this
a way
moment.
that we can save both universes.
He's like,
So we're all just like,
hi, sorry to
he's like,
interrupt.
my bad, but we
So
can fix this.
basically, Betty, you need to disarm the bomb
Yeah.
under the bed. And she's like, what? She's like, I don't know how to do. He's like, you actually do know how to do that. In chapter 61, you disarm the thing from Polly.
The
And I
bomb for
totally
Polly. And she's
forgot
like,
about that.
it
And
like shows the clip.
yeah, they kept showing the clip, which I guess it's good to do that because some people might not like remember. But I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this bitch was so crazy. She was wearing the bomb. I
She was
forgot.
strapped to a bomb. Yeah.
I totally
That's
forgot
exactly what
about
happens to
that.
her. Yeah. She lost it too.
Yeah. So she disarms the
Um,
bomb.
she disarms the bomb, and then they sit down and they explain the whole situation. And apparently, the Riverdale Jughead, who I guess is the narrator as well. I don't know. It's very
Okay,
confusing. That
here's
part is
where
confusing.
I'm getting a little lost, so I will let
Getting a little
you
lost.
explain this.
You're like, I will take a step back. So he explains that when he was strangled to death, he ended up in like Pop's diner, which is like in the sky, like their version of heaven, I guess. And it's all very old school. Everybody was
Loved it. So
there.
cute.
And he's like, yeah, but like it was like Pops, but like with comic books, and everybody was just hanging out and reading comics.
And like unlimited food.
Unlimited food, unlimited comics, unlimited milkshakes. And he says, I found this one comic between two issues that explains like parallel universes.
Mm-hmm.
So he started to read that, and then he realized that they need to find like a power source to keep Riverdale going. And he decides that the Jughead from, I guess, the current world, the Riverdale world that got the crossover, whatever, the one that's not dead, the narrator one tells him, it's so confusing for our listeners, I'm so sorry, but he needs to find the new power source, which is imagination.
So that's where they lost me, okay? Because he's talking about this whole thing, and I'm invested. I'm like, oh my God, what is this thing gonna be? Like, what's that one power source? Who is it? Like, is it Archie? Yeah. Like, you know? And then he's what like, I'm like, creativity. Say it. He's like, imagination. I'm like, oh, like what? Like how? Like fine, but like how are you gonna do that? And then he explains it. I was like, okay. I feel like slowly they were like losing me a little bit more. And then he's like, imagination. You need to keep writing. I was like,
you have to keep writing, yeah. Which, listen, as much as it was very like elementary school, like use your imagination. Like I thought they were gonna start breaking into the song, to be honest.
Do with like.
It's the idea of like
so he's writing Riverdale. So he's in Riverdale writing Riverdale.
Yes. Right. Exactly.
Okay.
No.
Wait.
He's in Wait. He's in Riverdale writing about Riverdale to continue because they're not the prime universe. The original universe is now going to be like broken or whatever.
Okay.
But the Riverdale version needs to tell the story. I don't know.
So, but what my thing is like, where's the who cares? Like we're never gonna go back to Riverdale, so I don't care if Jughead's in a room writing his whole life away. Like I'm gonna get Riverdale. So to me, it was like really there's no like thing like. I thought in
Because
Riverdale,
that's the
he's
thing,
like,
like two alternative situations would have been they would have like blown up like after they made out. Bughead would have blown up,
yeah,
made out, and then
yeah,
like we would have just been thrown back into Riverdale, and everybody would have been like, interesting,
cool,
cool story. I would
yeah,
have been okay with that.
yeah. I think so too.
They decided to like keep it alive still, but continue on this idea that everybody
Like
is,
they went as far as like even he's like, "Where's my typewriter?" And he's like, "It's in that place." And he's like, "The bunker." He's like,
you
"Yeah."
know,
He's like,
where
"We're
it
gonna take you
is.
down there at 7 p.m. tonight, and you're gonna sit there." And then he's like, "We're gonna close the door on you." I was like,
He's like,
"Okay, this is a lot
he
of
literally was
detail."
like,
Yeah, he
lock
literally was
you
like,
up.
I was like, "This is a lot of detail for like a scenario that we're probably never gonna jump back into once we go back to
Exactly.
Riverdale." So
Exactly.
it just didn't make sense to me. It kind of got more confusing than I feel like again that it needed to.
That it needed to.
Even like last week's with the whole transference thing, I feel
They
like
always go like one and then
too
they're like, oh,
much.
go.
Like
They
you were
just,
like you were
over the
saying,
cliff.
you know, Buckhead could have been that explosion, and then we just went back into Riverdale, and maybe that explosion of them having been together so sort of was the resurgence for Bughead in Riverdale.
Yeah.
They could have done something like
They
that.
could have done something different for sure.
Just,
But
I
anyway,
don't
this is what
know.
we got.
Anyways,
Is
it got a
some
little too
kind
complex.
of relatively convoluted reason why he needs
They
to
even
stay
showed
in
a
a bunker.
scene with Tabitha bringing him food, I think, or was it Ethel
No,
bringing him?
Ethel
Like I was
brought
like,
him.
holy, we're like getting a full out like
Full story. Like he is there
story.
forever and like just writing shit.
Yeah.
And Betty at one point in time is like, I don't want to do that. Like he's like that. I would never be able to live with myself. And he goes on to say like the original Jughead or the narrator Jughead says like, you're going to forget about him. And like, you're going to forget that he's even there. And I was like,
can you just suck it up and just be strong for me? This is not even the real universe. Like suck it up.
It's like, it's not even real.
That's what
None
I was
of
like.
this matters.
Yeah, like this doesn't matter anyways. So,
and they have this really sweet moment between him and like Betty and Jughead have this really sweet moment between each other where like he's like, don't worry girl, like we got this, like you and me saving the universe.
Like as usual.
I was like, for
cute.
Bughead fans, I hope that you at least enjoyed that moment because
they did.
We don't know if we're gonna get another Bughead scene, but like it was such a cute way to like show that they had that, you know, like they were good together. They are good together if Archie wasn't there, you know? Anyways, so then it cuts to him typing in the bunker and he's basically like explaining what's happening. He's like, Bughead was on the bed and Archie wakes up from the gunshot wound. He's magically alive. And then as he's trying to break the door down, the bomb goes down to 0 and then like nothing happens. And then so after his narration ends, it shows Jughead and Betty hugging each other and then waking up and then going back downstairs. Do you remember Jumanji? Shout out to Jumanji.
Yeah.
Remember that moment where they both hug each other at the very end, like while the game is ending, and then like it all resets to them as children. It was giving me like that energy because like when they came downstairs, they're like, we don't even remember why we were up there, but like something happened. I don't know. It just gave me that nostalgic kind of like these two people were in on this one thing and like it happened and now like it's all been reset or something. Yeah. It was really
and they don't
cute,
remember.
really cool.
Yeah.
In this one, they don't remember anything. Yeah. And then it's everybody's like downstairs, like having dinner.
Like Thanksgiving dinner.
And it was interesting because I want, like, to your point, I wanted to know in Rivervale or like whatever this world is, it is Rivervale, right? Like he reset Rivervale at this point in time that, like whether or not Tabitha and him were together still, or like now it's been reset. And they were together, which is interesting because I'm just like, why wouldn't you, at least for the Bughead fans, to be like, they got together? You know what I mean?
But
like,
I guess
we won't, because you're right, we won't care about those stories after we switch back to Riverdale. But anyway, it's all good.
Yeah.
So everyone's downstairs, everyone's like cheersing, whatever. Then it cuts back to Ethel down in the bunker with Jughead like writing and typing away. And she asks like, what's going to happen to the prime universe of Riverdale? And finally, after 5 episodes in this crazy, crazy world, we get thrown back into Riverdale and back into the exact moment when they're on the bed and Archie and Betty are making out. And I think Jughead even says he's like something would have had to change or something like that. Like he
Mm.
like because Betty and Archie were gonna blow up, right?
Yeah.
So while they're making out, we get that same scene, but the ticking sound turns into a phone call, and she like Betty
Yeah.
answers the phone, and somebody, I'm assuming it was Jughead, but it's like all muffled and crackling.
Yeah.
He's like, "Get out of the house right now! You have to leave right now!" And there's a bomb under the bed, so they run. And then it cuts back to Jughead downstairs
In the
typing
garage.
in the
Yeah.
garage, and he hears the explosion. Like nobody told Jughead to run. Like
Yeah.
he
My
was just
assumption is that
still
they
in the
didn't know he
house.
was down there. Like that's what I'm thinking. He kind of just snuck in there at
Oh,
night to write. So they
right.
didn't
Yeah,
know
yeah,
to
yeah.
tell him like to
True, true,
dip,
true,
you
true.
know?
And then that's like kind of all of it. Like
That's
he ends
how
up
it
like
ends.
moving back.
So
Yeah.
we don't actually see Betty and Archie leaving the house.
No.
No.
We ended off with, I think, Jughead
It
in the
just cuts to
basement, like his
Jughead
ears
and it
ringing or
explodes.
whatever, and
Yeah.
then that's it. And that's like the end of the
That's the
episode,
episode.
right?
So yeah, like it was a really good ending. And of course they aren't coming back until March. So like this is kind of like a cliffhanger-y sort of ending.
Yeah, or bookend even, really, like if you look at it that way. Yeah.
But my question to you is like, yeah, who was that on the line? People on Twitter were like, clearly it's Jughead, but then some people were like, no, it's not. It didn't sound like him. But I'm like, but
Right.
who else would it have been? Because no one else is gonna know to
Yeah.
warn her.
But also, like, how did that happen? I guess we have to just be
I don't-
okay with the fact that there was
I
a
don't
bit of a
think they'll explain
crossover.
it.
No, I don't think they
But
will
I
either.
did love that. There was something
Yeah.
really eerie and beautiful and like cryptic about a sign coming from another. If you do believe in multiple universes and you do believe in these things, there was something really beautiful, and like the lines crackly and you can't really hear him, and it just reminded me of Man in the High Castle, because like there was
It's
stuff
like
like
that
that would
multiple
come
universe.
through, like things would come through,
Right.
and it gave me chills, and I loved it, and I was okay with it. I'm like, it's okay, like it doesn't need to be
good.
explained. Yeah,
exactly.
and it's him
Yeah.
warning her, of course, like that's his like love. So
That's his like girl. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
it
I
was
liked
really, really good. I love the episode. I thought it was filled with a lot of like confusing parts. A lot of nostalgic pieces were thrown in. Like I love 100 episodes because they always like pull out all stops. And I
hard,
was
yeah.
really interested to see what they were going to do with it. But so good. We have a few questions. The first question that you have is who is the voice?
Yes.
Likely it's going to be Jughead. And then your second question is, does this make Jughead dead in Riverdale, or does he have like any hearing loss because like his ears are ringing?
Yeah.
Very good question. I don't know. Like maybe it's just like a temporary thing, but they do leave him like being like, ah.
Yeah, because I saw that someone had tweeted, and I was like, I wonder if like they'll make him have that, and then that's why he writes, because like he can't hear anyone else's stories, he just writes his own stories.
Ooh.
I'm like, that would be kind of like a cool twist, but then like I don't feel like they'll.
Yeah, they didn't feel like he
Yeah.
would never have a
He just
storyline
like
again.
yeah, he would never have scenes with people.
Like they would never give him anything.
Yeah.
So before we get into our roundups, is there anything else that we need to talk about? I think that's it. Yeah, good episode. We kind of blasted right through this episode, to be honest, but really happy about it. Yeah.
So happy with it. I'm very impressed. Loved it. And I think like you say, like sometimes there's some areas where I'm like, that could have been explained a bit better. But when the whole is so good, you don't really harp on those little things. You're like, whatever.
Exactly.
Like everything else was so beautiful and everything else was so much fun to watch. I'm like, whatever. Let's leave this there and let's move on.
Don't worry about it.
Good. I really want to talk about the video that we did, guys. And if you haven't seen it, it's the top 5 theories of Riverdale. We released it, I think, last week.
A couple weeks ago.
So if you haven't watched it now that we know sort of what happened, it's really good to go back and watch it. It's on our YouTube. But I kind of wanted to talk to you about it because we had 2 theories in there that sort of made sense into what happened now with like, we thought that it had something to do with Jughead's comic books and the fact that, what was the other one?
There was magic involved. I don't know.
There was magic involved. No, there was something with, no, Cheryl didn't do it and there wasn't witchcraft, but I guess it was the comic books.
The comic books was the big piece to it. Yeah.
So even though like it wasn't necessarily what Jughead was writing, I mean, it kind of was at the end when Jughead was writing.
Yeah.
So it was a theory that I think was sort of at the top of our list because we were like, nah, that won't make sense. But it kind of ended up being.
It all made sense. And really, if anything, like the way that they wrapped it up really shows Like, I think they put a lot of thought, as much as these kind of things can get really convoluted. I think they did put a lot of thought into the fact that like it was going to be Jughead. It was going to end with him writing, because we've always said it from the very beginning. First episode, we get this random narration from Jughead, and we don't know why. Is he writing a book? Is he talking about? He knows what's about to happen, so he's telling us the story of Riverdale. So it's almost like it all beautifully ties into the idea that he's narrating a story that he already knows, or he's creating a story as he's telling us. So I don't know. It was really cool.
It was cool, and I
still kind of confusing, but I loved it.
It worked out. Yeah. And I think we did say, we were like, we're not going to be happy if like, well, at least I said that. I was like, if it's just Jughead writing, but it was way more than just Jughead, right? There's a whole complex story around that.
For
so
sure.
I 100% loved it. Yeah. It all
such a good piece.
But yeah, go check out that video, guys, if you haven't.
Absolutely. Let's get into our recap roundups.
Let's do it.
Recap roundups.
Best moment. My best moment is obviously gonna go to Genuine, because whenever there's Genuine, it is the best moment. Pony, Ross Butler. I wish we got a little bit more, because when I watched the second time, I was like, he didn't even do anything. He went like,
do it again.
Like this, and then like took off his pants, and I was like, okay.
I was like, I wanted to see him in a speech.
And also, I think I would have preferred Charles Melton to do that, to BH.
Both of them. Both of them coming in
time.
with like cop uniforms. I'd be dead. My best.
Yeah.
Sorry, go.
No, it's okay.
My best moment is the reset, like when that moment happens with him and Betty and Jughead on the bed, and then they go downstairs. I don't know, like I said, it just felt very like, it had this like cute energy. It felt very Jumanji to me, and I loved it.
WTF moment.
What was your WTF moment?
WTF moment, obviously it's the Reggie, because it totally caught me off guard. It would have sucked if like I saw Ross Butler's name, because then I probably would have like guessed that it was going there, but I'm so happy I didn't see it. I was completely shocked.
Same.
And it was just fun. It was super fun.
100%. That was my WTF moment too. Like that reveal when he like opens the door and he's like, "Hey, babe."
Yeah, I was like, I was not expecting it. And then also the explosion from like Betty shoot. I was like, yo, they went hard with that like thing. It was like blood. It was like
the
that.
blood
I was
shot,
like,
the blood splatter. Yeah, for
two
sure.
moments where I literally like gasped. 2 moments in this episode.
Yeah.
So
good.
MVP.
Who's your MVP?
MVP is gonna go to my girl Ethel. Because you know, that's it.
Shout out. Yeah, she literally saved the universe. Good for her. My MVP was going to be Ethel or Jughead. I'll give it to Jughead as well. He carried the show. He figured out the mystery. He, despite his dead body, was the one who was out here trying to solve the whole situation. So shout out to Jughead for the first time in a long time giving him MVP.
Totally.
LVP. Who's your LVP?
LVP, I don't really have one. It could probably be like yours or Kevin, maybe.
Useless.
Because Kevin did
pointless. Did nothing. Didn't even contribute a word or a sentence. Yeah. My LVP is gonna go to Dilton, and I know it's like a stupid one too, because I feel like he doesn't even deserve it, because he's just a mad scientist. Realistically, he wasn't like a bad person, and I would never give it to Archie, even though he became so evil in this. So I'm interested to hear everyone else's LVPs. But yeah, that was mine.
The best line.
What was your best line?
Best line was yours, but I'm like, I bet you like you're gonna choose that one. I would say the ending where they were like Bughead was about to like have sex, and then she was like, you know what we did, and he's like, yeah, I read it in the comics. And I was like, okay, that's
so good.
Like,
such a good moment.
He was like kind of cheese, but kind of like, yeah, I
he's
read
like,
it too.
Don't worry, I read every single page. My best line goes to Veronica. Like I said, she had some really funny lines this episode where she talks about the fact that Hiram was dead during the quinceanera. Like, she got killed during the quinceanera, and she goes, I was so distraught we had to cancel the Jonas Brothers performance.
Yeah, I died. I was like, good old Veronica, like always delivering those funny lines. Like,
always
no
pulling out like a story about her and how it ruined her day. Like, okay, girl, we got this. Into our listener roundups.
Let's do it. At Purple Pink Swift. Such a good episode. Best moment, Jughead walking down the school hallways and seeing season 1 characters. Yeah, that was so cute.
Yeah, really
WTF
cool.
moment, Ross Butler being in the episode. MVP, Jughead. LVP, Dilton. Because why is he such a menace to society in every universe?
At Super Freddy Art said, mind-blowing episode, best moment, Pop's chocolate shop heaven. Same. I would love my heaven to look like that. WTF moment, the whole episode. MVP Jughead, LVP Clifford Blossom, and best line from Jason saying, "Oh hey Jughead."
Yeah.
True. I forgot that he spoke. So much happened that like he was the tiniest part of the craziness of this episode. Yeah.
That's why, but they're probably like, put him in the teaser. It's okay. We have so much more coming.
Yeah, for sure.
At Cat McHale 13, MVP Ethel and Jughead, who would have thought, and also Cheryl for looking flawless even in death. LVP Reggie's hysterically stupid. Best moment, too many. I genuinely can't pick specifically, but domestic Barchie was lovely, and all the mentions of Fred. Dev moment, Dilton called Betty. Also, R.I.P. Jughead's eardrums.
Oh, was it Dilton?
Wait, what?
Could have been Dilton who called Betty?
That's what I'm saying.
Possible.
It didn't sound like Jughead's voice.
Like
That's
Jughead.
Why I brought up that question. Because I rewatched and I was like listening. I'm like, it doesn't sound like him. But that's so random if it's Dilton. Like, why the hell would Dilton call Betty?
Also, Dilton's technically anyway.
And
I
like
don't know.
he's evil, so like why would he care?
Yeah.
I don't know. But
Anyways.
maybe. Best line, I didn't mean a duel, Veronica. There was so much dialogue. It was hard to remember what anyone said. All in all, it was such a cool episode and a really cool intro too. So many callbacks, and as Ali said, they really called themselves out for all the craziness and touched on so many things. It was hilarious. Genuinely enjoyed it for the most part. 100% agreed.
That's
100%.
like all the feelings.
Perfect.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that is the episode, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. And even for us, I would say, like, you've stuck by, you know, we've grown our audience after 100 episodes of Riverdale, recapping it. And, you know, we've picked up other shows, but like Riverdale truly is like the following that we've been like really invested in, and we love you all. Like, thank you so much for always listening and tuning in every single week, or whenever the show's on, I guess. So at this time, I'd like to take a time to thank our patrons of the episode. We have our Rewinder squad, White and Nicole, our late rewinders, Tina Ann, Soleil, and Kate, and our mommy rewinders and a daddy rewinder, Becca, Sarah, Tamala, Grace, and Cliff.
Thank you guys. If you'd like to join our Patreon family, check us out at patreon.com/recap_rewind.
And also make sure you all are checking us out on all of our socials, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. You can also find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Like, subscribe, follow, review, and comment to say you can engage with us here at Recap Rewind. Thanks again for listening. We're going to be on a bit of a hiatus until March, I think it is, for this for this little bitty.
We're thinking about maybe new shows, so if you guys like anything that's as crazy as Riverdale, comment below. Let us know. We'll think about it, and we'll
we'll get back,
try to see if we can watch it and do something. But we'll be off until March, so
see you till then. Bye.